what if you could upgrade your own internal operating system? Seriously, we're not talking about some sci-fi fantasy here, but about ancient practices, now backed by some pretty solid science, that let you sharpen your mind and fortify your body from the inside out. Okay, let's get into it.
I know. It sounds like something from a late-night infomercial, right? Change your life in just 13 minutes a day. But what if it were actually true? That's the very question researchers wanted to answer. And what they found is, well, it's pretty remarkable. We're going to unpack that science and explore another, let's say, bracing path to self-improvement.
So we have two major players on the field today. On one side, you've got meditation, that ancient practice for getting a calm, focused mind, and on the other, cold water therapy, this incredibly powerful tool for building a physically tough, resilient body. The best part? Both are super accessible, and today we're digging into the science that makes them so incredibly effective.
All right, let's start with the brain. It makes sense, right? Because before you can really master your body or your stress levels, you've got to be able to command your own attention. And it turns out both of these practices offer a serious upgrade for your command center.
You see, meditation isn't just about feeling calm or, finding your center. It is physically changing your brain. It actually strengthens key areas, like the prefrontal cortex. Think of it as your brain's CEO, the part that's in charge of focus and making decisions, and the hippocampus, which is absolutely crucial for your memory.
And these changes? They're totally measurable. Get this, a 2019 study took a group of people who had never meditated before and had them do it for just 13 minutes a day. After only 8 weeks, they saw huge improvements across the board. We're talking better attention, a sharper working memory, and, on top of all that, a significant drop in negative mood. And this isn't for experts. This is for total beginners.
So what about cold exposure? How does a blast of cold water upgrade your brain? Well, the secret lies in one powerful neurochemical, norepinephrine. You can think of it as your brain's own built-in alert system. When it gets released, everything just comes into sharper focus. Your attention, your mood, your ability to think clearly, it all gets a serious boost.
You know that intense, almost electric feeling you get the second you step into cold water? Yeah, that's not just a shock to your system. That's your brain getting a massive flood of norepinephrine. It's the neurochemical reason for that feeling of crystal clear alertness, and it can be an amazing tool for boosting your brain power, especially when you're under pressure.
So, this ability to command our own focus and alertness leads us right to our next topic, mastering stress. Because let's be honest, true stress management isn't just about feeling calm. It's about fundamentally rewiring our body's deep-seated response to pressure.
Okay, so here's the standard playbook for stress in your body. Your brain spots a threat. It could be a looming deadline, a tough conversation, anything, and it sounds the alarm. This kicks on something called the HPA axis, and the end result is your body gets a big old dose of cortisol, the main stress hormone. A little bit is fine, but when that system is always on, it really starts to wear you down.
This is exactly where meditation comes in. It helps you regulate that HPA axis. The same study we were just talking about put its participants through a pretty intense social stress test. And the meditation group? They didn't just say they felt less anxious. Their actual measured anxiety scores were way lower. They were literally better at managing their body's stress response in the moment.
Now, cold water therapy, it takes a different, maybe more direct approach to managing your mood. It triggers the release of another really powerful neurotransmitter. One study found that cold water immersion boosted its concentrations by a jaw-dropping 250%.
That 250% increase? That's in dopamine, the molecule of motivation and reward. This massive surge is what creates that incredible feeling of well-being, that almost euphoric feeling you get after a cold plunge. It's not just in your head. It's a profound neurochemical shift that has a really powerful antidepressive effect and can boost your mood for hours afterward. Okay, so we've upgraded the brain, we've rewired our stress response. Now let's talk about building a more resilient physical machine. And this is where cold exposure really shines. So, to get the metabolic benefits, you need to know about this stuff. It's called brown adipose tissue, or just BAT. Now, most of our body fat is white fat, which basically just stores energy. But BAT is completely different. It's packed with mitochondria, and its whole job is to burn energy to create heat. It's basically your body's own personal furnace. And activating that furnace has a massive impact. I mean, huge. One study found that spending an hour in cool water, we're talking about 57 degrees Fahrenheit, cranked up the calories people burned at rest by 350%.
Another study showed that just 10 days of getting used to the cold improved how well the body handled sugar by over 40%. These are absolutely enormous levers for your metabolic health. Okay, but what about the immune system? This is where the science gets a little more nuanced. Some studies, they show that cold exposure can increase the number of important immune cells, like T cells and leukocytes. But other studies find no significant change at all. So the key takeaway here is, while there are some promising signs, the claim that a cold plunge is a guaranteed immune booster, well, that isn't quite settled science just yet.
So, after hearing about all these potential benefits for your brain and your body, the big question is pretty obvious, right? How do you actually do it? How much is enough to see a real, tangible difference?
Well, the good news is the science gives us some really clear starting points. For meditation, the research is pretty consistent. 13 minutes a day for 8 weeks is enough to create measurable changes. For cold water therapy, the consensus seems to be that shorter bursts at colder temperatures, so think 1 to 3 minutes, are actually more beneficial than trying to stay in for a long, less intense session. But, and I cannot stress this enough, cold water therapy has real risks. You have to respect the cold. There's the obvious risk of hypothermia, but also significant strain on your heart and that initial involuntary gasp for air called the cold shock response. This is not something you just jump into without thinking. Please always talk to a doctor before you even think about starting.
At the end of the day, that's what these are. They're tools. Powerful, science-backed tools for changing how you think, how you feel, and how you function. The research shows us what's possible. Your brain and your body are listening. They're ready for new instructions. So the only question left is, what are you going to tell them to do next?